This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
I think you're all familiar enough with Black Mirror that it doesn't really need an introduction at this point. However, to set the scene, satirical writer Charlie Brooker and his unique brand of deadpan sardonic criticism of media, news and consumerism grew increasingly relatable to me during my angsty, disillusioned student years as I began my never-ending existential crisis. At his most nihilistic, Brooker perceived ordinary life as simply fueled by either escapism to counteract boredom or attention-seeking to feel a brief ounce of importance as we pointlessly wait for our inevitable demise. Although, to be fair, Brooker's work isn't entirely hopeless. He does accept that while life indeed may not have a purpose, that does not mean we should stop trying to invent one, because after all, what's the point of living if we're not actually living with some sort of purpose? All of these ideas eventually culminated in the acclaimed anthology series Black Mirror. However, before that show became a burnt-out husk of relentless misery porn, more credit needs to be given to his 2008 zombie miniseries that practically encapsulated all of Brooker's core themes, using a certain former behemoth brain-dead reality show that once defined popular British media as the catalyst for his nihilistic science fiction. This was Dead Set. So let's talk about it.
Dear 64, 2:36 p.m. Spears is in the biodome. Marky and Veronica are by the pool.
To be honest, I don't blame you if you're unfamiliar with Dead Set, because after all, the appeal or gimmick of this series will be lost to anyone outside the UK who has not heard of Big Brother, or just has no experience with reality television in general, which to you I say, I'm fucking jealous. Airing on Channel 4 during the peak of its popularity, Big Brother was the trashiest trash on British television to predate other shamelessly exploitative shows like Jeremy Kyle and Love Island by isolating a bunch of ordinary misfits and dim-witted scum in a lavish production house for several weeks, where they had to perform degrading tasks and contend with each other's inflating egos, usually involving frequent parties, sex, gossip, controversy, heated arguments, and the occasional fight, all while the general public could watch this unfold from the comfort of their living rooms, voting to evict a contestant each week until only one remained. Surprisingly, it made it to 19 seasons without a single homicide, but it did produce a few celebrities, but to hell if any of them ever actually deserved it. Yet, it did show the influence that shows like Big Brother had on seemingly creating a cult of personality around random strangers who gave us nothing other than shallow, cringeworthy entertainment at their own expense.
Could you take a shit for me, please? I would like to see you shit, so I would.
However, the thing was, you could argue Big Brother did start with a relatively compelling premise. It was actually one of the early adopters of the social experiment angle, and predated the whole YouTube craze of fame-hungry wannabes using the label as an excuse to do terrible dumb shit. Like the title suggests, Big Brother was about surveillance and voyeurism. It was conceived around the idea of isolating people away from the outside world with varying personalities, lifestyles, and Christ, even mental illnesses, and seeing what would happen if their lives were controlled and exposed to near 24 hours daily access. Since it came out during the turn of the millennium when technology and social media were still growing in commonality and society became increasingly dependent on it, here was a show where you could now literally sit up drunk at 3 AM and watch strangers sleeping if you really wanted to. Like, it was pretty fucking creepy when you think about it. I know today vloggers and streamers have made it seem more acceptable to open your private life to strangers, but it's still an inherently terrifying concept that we now take for granted. In fact, for how little you know of me from my videos, that still doesn't stop some people from adding me on my personal Facebook page thinking that because they watched a few of my videos that I'm now suddenly their best buddy. Seriously, don't fucking do that. Dead Set came out during a time when the zombie genre was a hot trend in media, before the explosive oversaturation and eventual fatigue brought on by The Walking Dead, and in its own twist to the formula, used zombies as a way to commentate on humanity's growing self-obsession, just as social media was becoming the all-consuming ubiquitous entity we see today. Regardless, it was a generally relatable show about our inescapable obedience to the media that helped us escape our depressing, uneventful lives, and it explored this without ever getting too indulgent on its themes. At the heart of it all, it was more focused on just being a fun, if grim, what-if scenario that fit well within the trend of fast-moving zombies popularized by 28 Days Later. In fact, come to think of it, it's almost impossible to overlook how it just straight up lifts the exact same style as 28 Days Later, because it really was attempting to do everything within its power to avoid comparisons to Shaun of the Dead, so it kinda shot itself in the foot in the process. The premise of Dead Set is very simple. A zombie outbreak occurs during eviction night at the Big Brother house, where a group of people decide to siege themselves within the house to await rescue. It was a self-contained parody of the very network this series actually broadcasted on. In fact, its time slot was just after when eviction episodes would take place. It premiered during the build-up to Halloween 2008 on Channel 4's sister network E4, and used its horror to focus on how normalized our viewing habits had become. Today, people will watch absolutely anything in front of them due to accessibility, including watching people die, but in its time, Dead Set did show just how new this whole loss of privacy hysteria was becoming, and believe it or not, it was virtually something that Big Brother predicted. The show had this twisted voyeuristic curiosity to turn reality into drama and entertainment, and as a result, Dead Set recognizes that we've all just kind of accepted the monsters we've become. I'm sure by now some of you can see how Dead Set takes a page from George A. Romero's book by modernizing the metaphor of consumerism from Dawn of the Dead. Ah yes, we are the zombies, now I get it. So the Big Brother studio is the replacement for the mall because the zombies are drawn to what they're most connected to. Ah, it's so deep. I mean, yeah, it's very on the nose about it, but it does work in the context of the show. The thing about Big Brother consumers and contestants was that they were all mostly fucking idiots, or in a less smug sense, ignorant of what they consumed to make them feel better about themselves.
They feel the need to be near us. I mean, don't forget, this place used to be like a church to them.
Of course, Dead Set doesn't just condemn them or anything. Sure, you've got your dopey characters like Pippa,
The toes have bones in them.
but then it humanizes the other housemates where now that the artifice of Big Brother is gone and nobody is watching them, they're kind of free to just be normal again. When that degrading sensationalism is stripped away, they're no longer these clowning monkeys that reality television makes them out to be. It puts us on their level again, no longer in our ivory living room towers staring down on them like the fly on the wall camera work implies. The criticism isn't just squarely on what these people will do for fame or simply to be talked about. It's mocking our arrogance for thinking we're above these people, when in reality we share their same desires to feel recognized, to feel somewhat important, to feel like we're not just treated as second-class citizens. This arrogance is then entirely manifested in Big Brother's producer Patrick, who perfectly hams up that eccentric sociopathic ratings-chasing douchebag who treats everyone around him as completely fucking useless, only for him to become the major butt of the joke. Since he's playing into the reality TV artifice by making the contestants look like wild animals in a zoo, when the outbreak finally occurs, he's the one who ends up degraded and humiliated.
I was stuck in a room and he done a poo and it stank.
Fuck is wrong with you?
However, this being a Charlie Brooker show, naturally the quirks of it being set in the Big Brother house begin to die down, and what we're left with is a depressingly gloomy experience. At first, seeing things like actual former contestants and presenter Davina McCall as zombies is so ridiculous and bizarre in the context of its time, but Brooker loves relishing in the overriding misery of it all. It sort of mirrors the reality show itself by putting these characters through humiliation and suffering for our own amusement, because after all, it's zombie apocalypse escapism. Granted, it does lead to an incredibly tragic conclusion where everyone either dies or turns into a zombie, so it does leave you thinking the whole thing is kinda pointless, but again, I think that's the point because it's supposed to mirror our viewing habits. Reality television has no point to it after all, no deeper meaning or purpose other than to eat away at our time before bed. Once it's all over, we just go back to whatever meaningless act we were originally doing, waiting for the next thing to come along and consume after we've long forgotten the last thing even existed. This is the same for the contestants. They want attention, but it's a fleeting moment that disappears into the endless void of every other fame-hungry person out there. Everyone wants to be on TV, and in the end, that's what they get. But to what end? Because nobody's watching, and nobody wants to watch because they're too busy watching themselves. I guess you could say Dead Set is an allegory for how the meaning of our survival has become more about getting people to recognize and value us, rather than just being about what we think of ourselves. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. This video is made possible thanks to this week's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an incredibly affordable online learning community for creators with over 30,000 different courses ranging from art, design to things like freelancing and business for all you aspiring folks out there. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to join classes and communities that are right for you, whether it be to expand your career skills, creativity, or even if you're just curious. Last time, I used Skillshare to help improve my productivity and creative writing, and now I'm currently taking Hanav Abduabkeeb's class in poetic essay writing to help improve my language and expressiveness, because I personally find my writing to be getting kinda stagnant and repetitive lately, so I thought indulging in a bit of poetic essay writing would help not only open my mind a lot more, but even channel a bit of energy, because I'm also super stressed out with work at the minute, and I think it's becoming quite noticeable in my videos. If you want to give it a shot for yourself, Skillshare is giving away 2 free months of premium membership to the first 500 people who click the link in the description box below to help you explore your creativity. And then if you decide to stick around, it's only about $10 a month. But hey, can you really put a price on knowledge? Well, apparently you can, so why not be one of the first 500 people to get that premium membership by clicking the link below, and until next time, stay very, very safe, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!